He stood there, amidst the twisted steel and blackened concrete that was once his factory, his entire life's work. The air, thick with the ghosts of smoke and failure, filled his lungs. Everything was gone. Everything. And in that moment of absolute ruin, Soichiro Honda did the one thing no one would ever expect. He smiled. A small, quiet smile. Not of madness, but of something else. Something liberated. Years later, he would say something so controversial, so utterly backward that it defied all logic of success. He said, "We should be grateful for the bombs. They gave us a clean slate." Host. How? How does a man look at the ashes of his dream and see not an end, but a beginning? How does one find gratitude in utter devastation? That is the question we are here to answer today. And I promise you, the answer has nothing to do with luck and everything to do with a philosophy forged in fire. For those of you who don't know the name, Soichiro Honda was the founder of the Honda Motor Company. Yes, that Honda. The global titan of engineering, the symbol of Japanese quality and innovation that builds the cars you drive, the motorcycles you dream of, the generators that power our lives. Today, Honda is a monument to success, a testament to precision and power. We are fed a constant diet of success stories that follow a simple script. Have a great idea. Get funding. Build a team. Scale to the moon. It's a story of addition, of accumulation. You need more to become more. But Honda's story violently rips that script to shreds. His life poses a big question that challenges the very foundation of our modern ambition. What if the secret to building an empire isn't what you have, but what you don't? What if the greatest asset you can possess is the crushing weight of having nothing left to lose? We're not just talking about a motivational cliché here. We're talking about a fundamental law of creation that Honda discovered in the ruins. Let's go back to that moment. 1945. Hamamatsu, Japan. Forget the inspirational quotes for a second. Let's be real. The emotional devastation must have been absolute. This wasn't just a business failure. It was a national collapse, a personal apocalypse set against a backdrop of a world in flames. Imagine the silence of machines that will never whir again, the silence of employees who have no work to return to. In that silence, every entrepreneur, every creator, faces their true enemy. And Honda's enemy wasn't the B-29 seconds that dropped the bombs. It wasn't the war. It was something far more insidious, something that lives inside all of us. Let's give it a name. Let's call it the ghost of what was. This ghost is the memory of your past success. It whispers that the only way forward is to rebuild exactly what you lost. It clings to old blueprints, old methods, old identities. For Honda, the ghost of what was told him his purpose was to make piston rings for Toyota, just as he had done before the factory was destroyed. That was his identity. That was his success. And so, he made a critical decision, a mistake, born from grief. He tried to salvage it. He tried to rebuild the past. He gathered what little he had and attempted to restart his old business in the ruins. But the world had changed. The economy was shattered. No one was buying piston rings for cars that weren't being built. Every effort was like trying to plant a forest in a desert of ash. It was a fight against reality, and he was losing. The cost was immense. Not just financial, but spiritual. The exhaustion, the gnawing doubt, the feeling of being completely and utterly alone, fighting a battle that was already over. This is the part of the healing journey that no one talks about. When your attempts to heal only deepen the wound because you're trying to resurrect a corpse. He was trying to bring the ghost back to life, and it was draining the very soul out of him. He needed to let it burn. All of it. Mentally and emotionally. And then, clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes after you've slammed your head against a brick wall for the 100th time. He stopped. He finally stopped trying to rebuild what was. And here is the lesson: the pattern break that changes everything. The world teaches us to mourn our losses. Honda's crisis taught him to see his loss as a purification. The common logic is, I have lost everything. I am disabled. The Honda logic was, I have lost everything. I am now free. Free from the expectations of his old clients. Free from the limitations of his old machinery. Free from the heavy burden of being the piston ring guy. The ghost of what was had finally been exorcised by relentless failure. The universe hadn't taken from him. It had cleared the board for him. This wasn't a tragedy. It was a brutal, violent, and ultimately necessary act of liberation. It was the start of his real self-development. So what does a man with no factory, no clients, and no product do? He goes home. And he observes. This is where his unique philosophy truly ignites. Post-war Japan had a million problems. But Honda, with the clarity of a man with nothing, didn't try to solve them all. He focused on the smallest, most immediate one he could see: his wife, Sachi. Food was scarce. She had to travel long distances to the market, often by bicycle, and it was exhausting. His engineering mind saw a problem not of transportation, but of energy. Human energy was being wasted. Around the same time, the Imperial Army had left behind a surplus of small, two-stroke generator engines used for powering radios. To everyone else, they were junk. War relics. But to a man with an empty canvas, they were a heartbeat. They were potential energy, waiting for a purpose. This abundance mindset isn't about seeing riches everywhere. It's about seeing potential in everything. He took one of these tiny, noisy engines and, through relentless tinkering in a small shack, figured out how to strap it to his wife's bicycle. The first Honda was born. It was loud, it was smoky, it was clumsy, but it worked. It solved one small problem for one person. Now, let's apply our unique technique here. The Soiroi Kui Diem, or the flaw spotlight. It would be easy to paint Honda as a perfect visionary. But he wasn't. Those who worked with him in those early days described him as the old man, a genius with machines, but often impatient and explosive with people. His focus on yourself mentality was so intense that he struggled to delegate. He trusted the logic of a gear more than the emotion of a human being. His emotional intelligence would come later. In the beginning, his genius was pure, raw, and difficult. He was a brilliant creator, but a flawed leader. And that imperfection, that struggle, is what makes his story real. It's a reminder that our greatest strengths often cast the darkest shadows. This wasn't just about career development. It was about deep personal development. So how do we, in our own lives, apply this radical way of thinking? We don't need a war to start over. We can distill Honda's philosophy into a practical formula. Let's call it the Rubble Principle. It's a 3-step guide to finding opportunity in your own bombed-out moments. Whether it's a lost job, a failed project, or a broken heart. Step 1. Survey your rubble. Stop mourning what's gone. Instead, take a ruthless inventory of what is left. Not the big things, the small things. A skill you forgot you had. A single contact in your phone. An old idea you abandoned. Be grateful for what remains, no matter how insignificant it seems. No excuses. Just honest assessment. Step 2. Identify your engine. In your pile of rubble, find the one piece of junk that still has power. For Honda, it was a tiny radio generator. For you, it might be your ability to write a compelling email, your knowledge of a niche hobby, your daily discipline of waking up early. It's your smallest, most overlooked asset. How bad do you want it? Find that engine. Step 3. Solve the smallest problem first. Don't try to rebuild the empire. Don't write the whole book. Don't launch the whole company. Attach your engine to the smallest, most immediate problem you can find. Honda didn't try to solve Japan's transportation crisis. He tried to help his wife get to the market. This creates momentum. It's the art of setting incredibly smart goals that lead to compounding wins. True motivation comes from progress, not just planning. And now, we can finally return to that smoking ruin, to that impossible smile, to the man who looked at the end of his world and said, "We should be grateful for the bombs." We can now understand what he meant. The bombs didn't just destroy his factory, they destroyed his prison. They vaporized the ghost of what was. They forced him out of a successful but limited path and threw him into a terrifying but boundless void of pure potential. He didn't find success in spite of the devastation. He found it because of it. The scarcity unlocked a level of creativity and discipline that abundance never could have. To stay hard when things are easy is one thing. To stay hard amidst ashes is where legends are born. The ultimate motivational message of Soichiro Honda's life is this: your moments of scarcity are not your weakness, they are your strength. Your empty pockets, your blank page, your shattered plans, that is not a deficit. That is a canvas. It is an invitation from the universe to stop adding and start creating. This is the core of a true abundance mindset. It's not about wealth creation through hoarding, but through ingenious application of what you already have. It is a purpose-driven life. So look at your own life. Where is your rubble? What ghosts are you clinging to? What would happen if you stopped trying to rebuild the past and instead found the one tiny, forgotten engine in the debris and attached it to the smallest problem you could solve today? That is how you begin, not with a bang, but with a quiet tinkering in the dark, with a spiritual journey that starts by accepting that sometimes the greatest gift is having it all taken away. Thank you for joining me on the 500 Millionaire Blueprint. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever found strength in your own rubble, share your story in the comments below. Your journey matters. Subscribe for more stories that don't just inspire, but empower. Now go. Find your engine.